Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is David. I'm a senior developer advocate working at AWS on OpenSearch, and particular open source OpenSearch. So welcome to the community meeting. Today, we have a couple things we're going to talk about. A little bit of etiquette beforehand. Please introduce yourself before speaking. We don't know you, or maybe not everyone knows you. A lot of familiar faces here, though. Cameras are optional. Ask questions. Preferably, let's say, in chat while speakers are presenting, and then there's going to be an open Q&A at the end where you can ask all of your OpenSearch questions, everything pressing and urgent. With that, couple announcements. We have OpenSearchCon coming September 27th. Make sure you've registered. If you haven't registered, you can't attend. And also we have discount through the hotel, so make sure to book your hotel through the discount code, and that can be found, I'm going to say somewhere. I'm going to assume on our conference website. But yeah, look out for that because that is going to be the best way for you to book your hotel. Additionally, Haystack Europe is coming the week of September 18th. Tickets are open for that now. So make sure to check that out. Haystack's phenomenal. I haven't been to the Europe one. I've been to the US one, though, several times now. So also, for those who didn't know, we have tons more meetings than just this one. So this one is the community meetings, focus on all areas community for OpenSearch. We also have a search relevance meeting that's going to be hosted on September 9th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Dashboards developer office hours. That one is September 10th at 10 a.m. Pacific. We have a development backlog and triage meeting, particularly focused on security. That one's going to be September 14th at 12, and so many more are coming. So keep your eyes out for those. I've got links here that I will share for all of those. And with that, let's roll right into the agenda for today. Today, we're going to start with Julian, who's going to be talking about their plugin for Synonyms. And then we're going to wrap it up with personalizing search results with Amazon Personalize. That's going to be James Jory from Amazon Personalize. So with that, Julian, I hand the floor over to you.
Thank you, David. Right, so good afternoon or morning or evening, depending on where you are. My name is Julien Nioche. This is a very short presentation about some work I did for a company called Telicent. So Telicent are based in London, and they were clients of mine. So I have my consultancy, Digital Pebble. Digital Pebble is a partner of the OpenSearch project. And you can find more info obviously on the Digital Pebble website, or you can find me on Mastodon as well. So as I mentioned, Telicent, company in London, and what they offer is a data platform called Core, which is about facilitating digital transformation and innovation. Their clients are typically large government organizations or very large companies, and it's basically about offering a secure data platform with strict control of access control in terms of accessing the APIs, but also within the data itself, and exposing the data through a number of APIs. They use the term smart cache to describe the various ways you can access the data with those APIs, and they offer a number of apps that use those APIs. But the idea is that organizations can build their apps and have the innovation at the app level without having to reinvent the wheel under the bonnet with the core platform. The way they like to, I suppose, to describe their work is, we take care of the boring stuff so that you don't have to. Just for functional breakdowns, so what you typically do is, given an existing data source of historical data or existing stuff, is to have a process of cleaning the data, resolving, and what is meant by that is that, and that's not something I've mentioned yet, is that the core platform is primarily about semantic data using an ontology called IES. And IES is, I think, one of the ontologies recommended by the British government for its organizations. So the resolver is, will allow you to link data in your source data to that ontology. And then it's finally sent into the smart caches for accessing in various ways. The one that is of interest to us today is the search smart cache. And that's a very, very simplified vision of it. Basically, picture that Kafka sort of topics containing RDF documents, RDF triples, and that gets indexed into OpenSearch. And then from a user point of view, with directly or through an app and everything, you access the data through an API, which is secured in various ways. So the bit that is interesting here today is it's some work I did for them, which is that they wanted the ability for people to have synonyms when they do their search and have end users sort of managing the synonyms themselves. The challenge though is that in the architecture, well, first you have that front of various APIs fronting the data. And then everything runs within Docker containers. In OpenSearch, and I believe it's the same in Elasticsearch, is that when you want to use the synonym mechanism, you have to put the mappings in the file and make sure that this file is accessible to your OpenSearch instance. Now, because everything's on Docker with their setup, it's not super practical to necessarily share volume, to have the data. Also, you'd have to do that for every single node in your OpenSearch cluster. They would all need to access that volume. Now, on top of that, we also have the APIs for exposing the results to the user don't give the user access directly to the volume. So what I came up with is a special plugin for OpenSearch, which you can find on GitHub. It's under Apache Software Foundation license, and it sort of it's up to date with the latest version of OpenSearch with 2.9. And the idea is very simple: is that instead of having the data for the synonyms in files and load them from there, instead you put them in a special index called .synonyms, like a system index. And the implementation of the plugin so modifies the one currently available, so it's synonym graph token filter, by loading the data from the index. So it's very, very straightforward, extremely simple. It works at query time only, so you can't, it will do the expansion of the synonyms on the queries, not during the indexing. But it's a common practice anyway, because when you change your mappings, you don't want to have to re-index your whole collection of documents. So demo time. Let me see. So I have a Docker couple of Docker containers, one with the dashboards and one running the modified, like the Telicent OpenSearch image, which is basically just the vanilla OpenSearch with the plugin pre-installed, just to make it easier to use. So we can have here, we're just looking at the dev tools, and we can see the Telicent Synonyms plugin is loaded. Now the first step is we'll define like an index and say that this is where we want to store data. So yeah, we can see the Telicent plugin is preloaded. Then what we'll do here, we'll just create an index, very, very straightforward, with a very simple analysis pipeline with low casing and ASCII folding and everything. But on the search side of the pipeline, we declare the an additional filter, the graph synonyms, and that's where we configure the plugin. So we say, the type is what links it to the implementation. We can specify an index name where the mappings will be stored. By default, it's .synonyms, but if you want to override that, it's absolutely fine. These are the same, expand and lenient are the same parameters as in the default sort of synonym mechanism. So we'll create that so that any documents, any interaction with this index will use the synonym plugin. Done. Now, as I said, we don't want to use files at all. So we just create a document. We push a document to OpenSearch with the mappings, and the format is exactly the same as the usual format for the synonyms. So we'll push that there. And what we need to do is, let's see, let me try that. Yes, we can see the content of the synonyms index. It just has one document containing our mappings. All good. What you need to do is you need to tell the plugins to reload the data, and this is, you call this this command here, which is pretty standard for reloading plugins in OpenSearch. And now we'll see that we have we'll sort of use this analyze sort of endpoint, again standard OpenSearch stuff, just to see the analysis in action and see how it tokenizes an arbitrary string of text. And we can see a success. I'm relieved that the customers and universe, well, that customers has been added to as a synonym of universe. You can see it as a type synonym in the analysis. So yeah, that's all there is to it. It's really, really straightforward. Let me switch back to my presentation. So as I said, the you can find the code on GitHub. You can also use the custom Docker image, like I just did in my little demonstration just now, and it's on Docker Hub. If you have any questions or bugs or want to improve, have suggestions for improvements, please do get involved. Telicent are planning to open source, their core pipeline, their core platform. This plugin for OpenSearch is already open source. You're very welcome to get involved and contribute and use it in any way. If you want to contact me, you can find me at julian@digitalpebble.com, or I'm also sort of often on the OpenSearch Slack. If you have, if you need someone to help you with any OpenSearch sort of work or consultancy or development, feel free to get in touch. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any questions about this plugin? I've also just pasted it in the chat. Awesome. Well, if we have any questions, let's save them for the end now. I'm going to hand it over to James. Thank you so much, Julian, for presenting.
Pleasure.
And yeah, James, the floor is yours.
Thanks, David. All right. Good day to everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to share what we've been doing with Amazon Personalize, an AI service at AWS with OpenSearch. I'm a solutions architect at AWS. I've been with AWS for about 5 years now, and I work exclusively with Personalize. And before joining AWS, I had a number of years experience going back to working with Lucene directly, a few years of Solar, and a little bit with Elasticsearch, and now with OpenSearch. So excited to see those two parts of my current and past work experience combined together into this presentation today. So I'm briefly going to, here's what I want to cover today, but I'll move through the Personalize overview and the case for personalization pretty quickly so we can get to the subject of this this presentation. But I'm also going to show you a demo of the OpenSearch plugin for Personalize and share some resources at the end. So I think by now it's no secret that personalization is no longer optional for businesses to be successful and compete. Consumers expect personalization now as a standard level of service, and the benefits of personalization are well understood and well defined. But putting personalization to work presents a number of challenges. It's more and more competitive on digital channels, with businesses competing against other businesses that are also putting personalization, competing with the time that consumers have interacting with brands. Also predicting consumer behavior as it changes in real time is a very difficult thing to do for personalization. And as your personalization system grows, it's difficult to maintain personalization with more traditional rule-based approaches. And finally, personalization with machine learning really isn't a single model or single algorithm approach. It really requires different algorithms that target different use cases. So we heard this from our customers, and we built the service Amazon Personalize back in 2019. And it not only provides state-of-the-art algorithms, deep learning algorithms for making recommendations or predictions, but it also layers on additional capabilities on top of those models that are needed to deliver an end-to-end recommendation system. And one of those is being able to respond quickly to changing user intent or cold starting users. And that's something that Personalize has baked into the service. So without requiring retraining, the service can adapt recommendations in near real time to what the user is doing with your application right now. To make delivering a personalization system, make it easy to get to market quickly, Personalize encapsulates a lot of the things you'd have to do with building a machine learning pipeline from the ground up. So we can handle retraining, ingesting data, like I mentioned, adjusting recommendations to real time based on streaming interactions or events into the service. And like most other AWS services, the service is API driven, so it makes it easy to integrate into existing applications. An important point with Personalize is that the models trained in Personalize are trained only on your data. So no data from other customers or from Amazon.com is used in models that are trained with your data. And your data stays private to your model. So everything is private, encrypted, and secure to your AWS environment. So some of the key areas that we could call them foundational use cases for Personalize that we target with the service. The first, user personalization, is sort of the canonical recommended for you that you see in so many sites and applications today. And that's where, given a user, based on what we know of that user's interest and past behavior, we'll make recommendations of the items that user may be interested in. Similar items is then you take them from the homepage to, say, a product detail page or some sort of detail page, and you want to recommend related content to that item that keeps the user engaged with your site. Personalized ranking is the focus of this talk here, is where we can take in a list of items that are curated outside of Personalize and a user, and then we'll re-rank or personalize the order of those items to that individual user. And then lastly, intelligent user segmentation is where we sort of flip things around, where instead of recommending items to a user, we'll recommend users that have an affinity for particular items or item attributes. So this is paired really well with marketing use cases, where you're looking to intelligently target users that would have an affinity, say, for some promotion you're doing. So real quick overview of how Personalize works. It starts with adding your data, and there's 3 types of data that Personalize considers. The first is interaction data or events or behavior, and this is the only required data for Personalize. So we make predictions based on users' past behavior and learn patterns in that behavior. Second is item metadata, and although it's not required, it helps improve the relevancy of recommendations. And this is where we overlap with OpenSearch, where the type of re-ranking or personalization we're doing here is more of a catalog search type use case rather than an analytics use case. And then finally, user metadata is data about your users. So it could be demographics, psychographics, attributes about your users that you may have. Once your data is ingested into Personalize, and you can ingest it through import jobs or streaming through request response interfaces or APIs, you create what we call solutions. And a solution is just a combination of a recipe or an algorithm designed for a use case with your data. And so as we saw on the previous slide, we have those 4 areas of recipes that are designed for these core use cases. So user level recommendations, user segmentation, similar item recommendations, and personalized ranking. With your model trained, it's time to tune those recommendations. And so we have a number of capabilities in the service that allow you to sort of attune or adjust recommendations based on new item bias. So for instance, if you want to cold start items or explore recommending new items, automatically the service has the capability of doing that. Overlaying business rules or filters, we call them, on top of your recommendations. A good example in a retail use case is I don't want to recommend items that this user has recently purchased. So remove those from the recommendations for that user. Or don't recommend items that are currently out of stock or that have gone out of stock. The service also allows you to promote specific items based in a relevant way. So if you're looking to promote particular items that are on sale or some sort of promotional deal, you can have Personalize incorporate those promoted items in recommendations. And oftentimes businesses have some alternative business objectives. So maybe maximizing margin or profit, or for media use cases, it's maximizing dwell time or view time on the site. So we have the ability for it to tune that against relevancy and recommendations. With your models trained and everything tuned and optimized and ready to go, it's time to get recommendations out of the service. And you can do that really 2 ways. You can get it real time. So we create auto scaling endpoints that allows you to get recommendations from the service in real time in a request response type format. You can also generate recommendations in batch. So you can prepare an input file of items or users that you want to generate recommendations for, run a job, and Personalize will write those results back out to, in this case, it's an S3 bucket. And then finally, contextual recommendations allows you to provide additional context with your interactions as well as at inference time about what's specific to that interaction. So a good example is device type. If you have a intuition that your users react to items differently if they're on their mobile device versus on a set-top box, say for a streaming service, or on their laptop, you can provide that device type at inference time, and Personalize will further tailor those recommendations based on the current context of that user. All right, so now let's, the topic for today is personalized search, which is a new release with OpenSearch 2.9 is a search ranking plugin that will re-rank search results using Personalize. So here's how it works. With your client application, you send a request to OpenSearch as you normally would. But the plugin is then called, which passes the search results from OpenSearch along with a user ID that you pass in with your query. And the re-ranking plugin then makes an API call to an Amazon personalized campaign, that re-ranking recipe that I mentioned earlier, that re-ranks the results based on that user ID. So you're passing in basically the OpenSearch results to Personalize, and that becomes the candidate set for re-ranking. Then the plugin does a weighted re-rank of those search results. So essentially, we're taking the scores from OpenSearch and the scores that come back from Personalize for re-ranking, and you can set a weight that controls how much weight is put towards the Personalized ranking versus the relevancy from OpenSearch. And it's basically a 0 to 1.0 scale where you can adjust the weight of how much Personalized influences the ranking of the results. And then finally, the results are returned to your application. Setting up the plugin, it is really simple. It's creating a search pipeline. So here is an example of creating a pipeline called Intelligent Ranking, and that's on the URI is the Intelligent Ranking name, and then some of the parameters that are required and optional for the plugin include what's called a campaign ARN, and that's essentially the unique identifier for the Personalized ranking campaign or the endpoint that the plugin calls to do the re-ranking. An IAM role is also required from a security perspective if you're not passing the credentials directly into your OpenSearch instance. You can specify which field is the identifier for each item. The default is, of course, the built-in _ID. The recipe, currently the only recipe we support here is AWS personalized ranking. We'll be adding other recipes in the future. And then here's that weight that I mentioned on the prior slide, where you can set the weight between 0 and 1.0. If you set it to 0, it basically, the plugin short circuits and doesn't call personalized, because that means 0 personalized weighting. So it just returns the result, the search results from OpenSearch right back to OpenSearch. And you can set a tag on your pipeline as well as specifying the AWS region where your personalized resources are located. Invoking the pipeline involves specifying the pipeline on the query string. So in this case, you see search pipeline equals intelligent ranking. That's the pipeline that we just configured on the prior slide. Query is any query that you currently can do with OpenSearch. But the way we pass the user identifier, you see there is the user ID field in the personalized request parameters dictionary under the ext dictionary. So this is how you specify that user ID that's passed through to personalize. All right, demo time. So we built a small demo application that is functional to very similar to the search relevance in the OpenSearch dashboards application. And that's because we need to be able to pass through the pipeline through the API call, and the search relevance currently does not support that. So this closely mimics what that tool does. To show you the demo scenario that I have here is I have a personalized re-ranking campaign and data set that's trained with the Movie Lens data set. So if you're familiar with the group downloading the Group Lens data set based on movie reviews that users have made, that's what we've trained a model on with those users. And the index is populated with both Movie Lens data as well as some IMDb data, such as the title, plot, genres, the director, and who's starring in the movie, just to create a richer search experience. So to give you a sense of different users and how the plugin re-ranks differently to different users, I'm going to look up the recent interactions and these are events, basically, or ratings of a particular user. So user 12, their recent movies you can see here. So interested in comedy, romance, drama, you can see a pretty consistent trend of that here. We're going to search the movie index in this particular OpenSearch cluster, and the query I'm going to do is, let's say, for Tom Hanks. Let's quickly look at the two side-by-side queries we have here. So this is just a multi-match query where we're doing the search text substitution of Tom Hanks, and we're going to search across the title, plot, genres, the director, and starring. Query 2 on the right side is the same query, but it has the request parameters where we're going to substitute the user ID from above, so user 12, and do the re-ranking on the right side. So looking at the two search results, we see, because of this particular user, romance, drama, and comedy are their interests, we see a lot of re-ranking going on here. I think the weight in this case is 1.0, so it's heavily weighting the personalized ranking for this particular demo. But you can see comedy, romance are have been moved further up the list. So you can see the delta ranking from the left side to the right, and other movies further down the list that have been dropped down the list include like a mystery thriller here, as well as just straight drama. So action, adventure, comedy here have been moved down. So to demonstrate how this will change for a different user, let's pick a different user ID, look at their recent interactions, and we can see they're quite a bit different. So we have drama, war movies, some crime as well. Let's rerun our query, our two queries. and we see that there's completely different movies towards the top. So we see a couple movies with the war genre towards the top, drama movie, and so on. So you can see that the re-ranked results are quite a bit different between these two different users. All right, so some resources that you can check out after today includes the developer guide for Personalize. So if you want to get up to speed on how to use Personalize and how it works. We also have detailed documentation on the search ranking plugin itself, so how to configure it, what I showed you here, as well as a number of other capabilities. So some metrics that we provide, how to configure a default pipeline for an index, and several other things. We have a lot of samples of how to work with Personalize, getting started with Personalize on GitHub under this repo. So a lot of good content there. And then if you want to check out the source code for the plugin, it's available on the in the search processor repo under OpenSearch project. And if you want to get started quickly with the plugin and OpenSearch a local Docker deployment, there is a quick start script similar to the Kendra one, if you're familiar with that. That'll quickly create the necessary configuration, install the plugin, and deploy OpenSearch node as well as the dashboards app in a Docker Compose configuration. All right, so that's all I have for you. Thank you, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions about Personalize or the plugin.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It was really cool. Actually, that interface that you were using, was that available under one of the links you had shared?
It's something we just created. So we will be open sourcing it
Awesome.
And making it available, but it's a convenient way to show side by side. So like search relevance. So it's a really impactful tool for showing the demo, but we will be putting it on GitHub probably in the next few weeks.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think that was, for me, that kind of pulled it all together really nicely, and being able to see, and play with those rankings and weights live. It's huge. So thank you so much. Any other questions? Awesome. With that, we've got some time for general Q&A. If anyone has any other questions about OpenSearch, what's going on, we'll share my screen, give it a minute or two, and then otherwise maybe we'll have a short meeting today. And feel free if you have, this is open Q&A, so if you have any other questions other than what was presented today as well, feel free to drop those in. Either hop on audio or drop them in the chat, as I remember to pull up my chat.
Quiet group today.
I know, right? It's the early morning meetings. I get it. So Raphael just dropped a, what is it called? A Slack in the chat. Taking a look at that real quick.
It's over in the migrations channel.
Yep. Which, come to find out, I am not in the migrations channel. Makes sense because I'm not actually migrating anything currently. All right, do we have, so the question is particularly around OpenSearch integrations. Do we have any information about the standard specification that will be used in normalization? Are we planning to base the OpenSearch normalization on the Elastic Common schema? And you'd like to get involved and help. I don't know who is in charge of the integrations. We're going to open this up while we are talking. Throw it on screen. We have what's called simple schema for observability. That is, I believe, the standard that is getting wrapped around integrations. I'm going to let someone else hop on if they have anything more to share about that. I'm going to call out people. DB.
Yeah. Do you know would Bill?
Yeah.
Bill's in charge of this? Would Bill be the contact for this?
Yeah, Bill actually might be a really great contact. Oh, and he's on. except for he's on his phone, so he might have a hard time unmuting. I know I do.
I figured out how to unmute, but what I would say is that this is not necessarily a migration question, but rather how to use the integrations repository.
Yeah.
There's a GitHub repo about integrations, and I think that you can drop an issue there if you have a question, and somebody should get back to you on that. And it's worth raising a question, I would say, in maybe one of the main on the Slack to ask if there is a channel specifically for people who want to contribute integrations or find out more about integrations. So those are the two places I would go for that. Migrations is really about people who are changing versions and their challenges around those versions. I mean, I guess it is a migrations issue, but I would say it's much more specifically an integrations question.
Yeah, and I think the call out there is they're moving from, they're migrating, and in the process of migrating, they're also looking at the integrations. So like tangential. Awesome, happy to help.
Yeah, there's some links that you're already in the chat there for the SS4O, and then just integrations as well. I think some of what you brought up there a second ago as well. But and by and large, I think the question is largely like elastic common schema trying to be used around that. The answer to that is largely yes, as you can see listed in the middle of the screen there. But that's because OTel has adopted elastic common schema for logging standards. So that has been the primary choice of adopted schema for going forward for like those integrations and things like that.
Thanks, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Always helpful.
There is a working group that some of the conversations have fallen off a little bit though for simple schema integrations, and that also being mixed up with some of the Spark integrations that might be forthcoming. So hopefully we'll be having some more conversations about those coming up.
Yeah, I think that Spark one, I think was kind of the big one, and that's why it's a lot of it's been wrapped around that, figuring out how that works. So hopefully lots more to come. Cool. Open for any other questions. Maybe I'll just start combing Slack for other questions that have gone unanswered. I really need to do this before we hop into a live meeting, you know. Well, with that, thanks everyone. I'm going to close off the meeting unofficially. If anyone would like to stay after chat, feel free. Otherwise, thank you all for coming.
Go register for OpenSearch Con.
Please,
We'd
please.
love to see everyone there.